Hi, everybody. I'm trying to see if I can share my screen and if that everything goes well. While I'm trying to do that, I have to say that you will need to draw at one point. So it would be great if you have a piece of paper in front of you already. If not, you still have some time while I'm trying to figure this out. Let me see. Okay. Okay, so first question, are you seeing the full screen, not the speaker notes, not the desktop, not like with a thumbs up? Perfect. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm really happy to be here. I've been doing this research for, I think, 4 years now, and I've been trying to kind of get to a level where I can educate about it. And during the time at the Amsterdam University, I gave courses in it, and I tried to give presentations in it. And I feel like now is the moment to really kind of talk about it and see what we can do with it. So I hope I will tell something that you don't know yet. So let's talk a little bit about what we all know and what we all experience is that during the corona crisis right now, the schools are empty. And I can imagine for all of you, it's quite a weird feeling to be in a room where there's all tons of people exactly like now, and you can't see them, you can't interact with them, and you spend maybe, well, weeks not really seeing them. And this is kind of how I feel. I kind of feel like, yes, I'm doing okay, I guess. I don't know. And one of the things why this really is a feeling for me is because every time I give a workshop now, I cannot see who I'm working with. And that's a really hard feeling that you have this disconnect. So it kind of is like, what is going on? And obviously, we've been reading about Zoom and like the privacy issues. And one of the other things that I read about is the Zoom fatigue. So if you want to turn off your camera or something, that's totally fine. But like we've been looking into this, like what is Zoom fatigue and what is this actually doing with you? But on the other side, the corona crisis is also doing really good things. So for instance, like when I give a workshop now, there's people joining from all over the world that could never be able to really attend my lectures or my workshops. So that's actually a really good thing. And I don't know if you all have that shared feeling where you're like, okay, maybe there's some positivity here. Maybe there's a silver lining. And especially I'm interested in sustainable development. And one of the things that I've been looking into is like this university flying, right? There's this petition going on to make sure that universities don't fly as much anymore, because all that we want to do is go to conferences and talk to each other and I don't know, like spend hotels and really living the jet set life. But this is kind of this call that was going on with universities. Well, the good thing is since the lockdown, actually, the aviation emissions have dropped by a third. So that's really good. So this, and I hope this gift works for you, was a visualization of last year in the summer where you see all these planes coming around. Hopefully this will not return anymore, but it's still insane to think about that this was actually what's going on. And when I always look at what's transformation, I always look at the three things, like what's the artifact, how does it change behavior, and how does it get influenced by the system. And what's going on right now is that we're in a Zoom call actually, and that's the artifact. That's what we're using now. The product that we're using is connecting us. Well, I mean, globally, I definitely see some people in different time zones, but it is going to change our behavior. So this is a university. I don't know where it exactly is, but they use like iPads to host a graduation show. And in a way, I thought that it was really genius, just because you don't have to be physically present anymore to be there. You can now open up your schools to other countries, other nationalities, other people who cannot afford to live in the city. Like I work in Amsterdam, so you can imagine the rent prices here are really high. So for a lot of students, studying in Amsterdam is not that accessible. So that's the good thing. But what about the system that we're using? And the system that we are using is actually the World Wide Web or the internet. And this is where my research kind of ties in. So I've been doing a lot of research about this particular question, where I will ask all of you. So if you have a piece of paper, and I'm going to give you maybe 30 seconds for this, that if you can draw why it is that I'm here in Amsterdam and I'm showing up on your screen and what process my image has to go to. So how can it be that you can upload a file to your coworker who's on another building and takes that file? So if you take the time to draw that for me, that would be great. in the meantime, I can give you like some sort of teasing questions. Like, so think about the size, think about how many devices are connected, how many steps are there. And I believe this is recorded. So this is a great moment as well to kind of show what we're all doing. So if you have finished your design, if you can hold it up in front of the camera so we can all see what you did, that would be great. Okay, nice, nice. I see some really nice ones. Okay, some with a lot of steps, some with just one step. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is great because basically I've been asking these questions, I think now for 4 years, and nobody really has the right answer. And to me, that's really remarkable, right? Like we're all using the internet and nobody knows how it looks like. And this is just because the internet is becoming so abstracted from us that we just don't know anymore how to represent it, because we represent it with behavior, we represent it with systems, or like certain protocols that it needs to do. But what I see the most is actually still like people draw a cloud. And well, I mean, we all know that once your internet goes out, the first thing you do is you pull the plug. So why are we talking about the cloud if we have a plug, right? And these plugs go all over the world. Actually, they also go underwater and they go through buildings, and like there's these certain hotspots, and these cables cost like millions of dollars just to improve your internet speed with a few milliseconds. And these cables are very physical and they can break. So there's like this tech crew who repairs them, but still we don't know. And as designers, we are telling our customers or like our society that it's a cloud and we don't have to worry about it. And the people who know about this don't want us to know about it because they can make a lot of money. So when I started looking into, okay, where is all this webinars, where are these hosted? Well, they're basically data centers. So there's like a stack of computers that are processing all your information, have all your files, have all your, well, I have this presentation now as well. And these data centers are massive and they're largely distributed all over the world. This one is in America. I think it's Amazon. But they are processing. So during my BA, I had a simple question. What's the waste of the internet actually? Because as an example for now, like we have the face masks going on and we make them fashionable and we make them like an accessory, and they've already found them on the bottom of the ocean, disrupting ecosystems. So to me, that's already kind of like, okay, wait, what's happening? And in my teachings, I always had this quote, like, if you invent something or if you design anything, you also design the consequences of this. So this quote by Paul Virilio, like when you invent the plane, you also invent the plane crash. So this is always what I was taught, and this is what I wanted to research. So what actually is the promise of the cloud? Why are we always talking about like put it there, or like just grab it from the cloud? And one of the promises that it is that it has unlimited uploading, right? I'm not sure how much terabyte you all have for your surf drive or whatever local storage you have, but I have too much. And actually the environmental cost of this is just only increasing, because if we don't delete our email boxes, so maybe quick raise of hands, who has more than 1,000 emails in their email box? Yeah. So this all keeps stored, and that's why the data centers needs to grow. So this is a huge problem. So I started to make a project with it, thought about social media accounts that didn't get deleted. And I started to write lyrics with usernames of Twitter, where I tried to address what was actually going on. So now we have to see if this works. But I have the entire video. We can watch it or we don't. We can see. But let's see if the audio works first. So there's a little bit of silence, and then it should be fine. So let's see.
Hey you, are you the one that stopped on by? Hey you, the one who wanted to be fly? Hey you, the one who's still in their eggshell? Yeah, you, the one who didn't say farewell. You didn't have anything to say. No tweets were coming your way, so you decided not to stay. But why did you never fly away? Well, now you must be asking what's the deal. We know we have to explain how we feel. You see, we've seen that we made some mistakes. We kept some profiles around that were fakes. That's why we are looking if you're gone. And if you happen to have moved on, you didn't have anything to say. No tweets were coming your way, so you decided not to stay. But why did you never fly away? Did you know that you hold up space? And know how much electricity it takes to keep your profile here online. So please recycle for a better word of mine. You didn't have anything to say. No tweets were coming your way, so you decided not to stay. Why did you never fly away?
Yeah. So I wrote this song during my art school days, and I thought that I would like have an impact. I didn't know what I was hoping for, but I was actually hoping that people would talk to me and say like, oh, I actually have a Twitter profile and I don't use it anymore. Let me delete it. So the good thing is it got 5,000 views. So that for me was a really good success indicator. The problem was I started asking myself, am I having an actual impact, or am I increasing the actual problem that I'm trying to address? And the impact was quite easily measurable. Did any of the accounts got deleted? And the answer is no. So actually I added to a system that was already emitting with zero actually KPIs. So that was a little bit of a shame. And I started diving a little bit deeper into what the cloud actually was. And this reference is from 2013, and it has only been growing. But based on electricity consumptions, the cloud was the 5th largest user of electricity. And I can only imagine right now in this lockdown that we're having, and we're constantly always online, this is only increased. And what is the role of design with this? It's quite easily that we give the tools to the people to make this happen, right? Like if we don't tell our students, like turn on your camera, the electricity consumption will go down, but we kind of want to see them and we want to interact with them. So we kind of have to rethink how we do this. So one of the things that I started doing at that time was I started to calculate and really try to say, can I make people aware of the problem with math? Which was, you know, if I'm pretty sure there's some people here from art school, math is never the good thing about art students. So I basically found out that there's almost 500 million tweets being sent 1 year on average. And on average, I mean, there's no World Cup, there's no Eurovision Song Festival, there's no Olympics going on. It's just an average indicator. And one tweet only has 0.02 grams of carbon that it emits. But if you start calculating that, you actually come up around almost 10,000 kilograms of carbon dioxide that is being emitted just through Twitter. And that was just a tweet. And I started to look deeper into this. And I don't know, did you had this exchange for any chance? Because I kind of had it, where you say like, hey, you know, coworker, here's the presentation. Oh, sorry, I forgot the attachment. Oh, you know what? Here you have it again. Can you confirm? And then you're in this email thread of almost 60 emails. And you actually have not really achieved anything. Well, what you did achieve is actually emissions. So an email with attachment has the equivalent of around 4 grams, and with it's 50 grams. And I have to look up this number, but this is how many emails they're being sent each day. So maybe you all have that too. I also have that, where you say like, please think of the environment before printing this email. I actually changed it now to just please delete this email once you've read it, because you know you don't want to keep it around the servers. So what was really important here was that the way we tell people to be present is to document, or to be somewhere, or like we all tell our students to make something that people want to share. So the installation that I made as a graduation process was actually an installation that in the front showed this physical side of the cloud, where you had like the wires and the computers going on, and that kind of led to a smoke machine that would kind of emit smoke every time 50 photos were shared about the Willem de Kooning event. And again, it was the same problem, that people really liked it, started making photos of it. So the machine was doing overdrive. So I remember that the smoke was really kind of, how do you call that? Like it was all over the room, and the building had to be kind of cleared out just because my installation didn't shut down. So that was actually a really nice side note. But why did I choose to do smoke? Is because I found out that the electricity that is being needed to support all of this online behavior still comes from fossil fuels. So green energy is not being given the attention, or it's not giving the opportunities that it needs, or it's not being developed enough. So actually the fossil fuels are still demanding a lots of resources just to make us connected in this way. And before the lockdown, the prediction was that the cloud, or the entire ICT sector, would emit something like 340 million tons of carbon. And it's actually been going up to 830. So that to me was quite shocking. And then to refer it back to the aviation industry, where the ICT is 730 million, aviation was 800 million. And this was all before the lockdown. So obviously aviation went down and ICT went up. But I don't know about you, but as far as I know, I keep seeing more digital designs, digital things that are actually happening. What's important as a good note to have is that the ICT sector, the emissions that you see here, that serves almost 80% of the global population. And that amount is actually the total carbon footprint. With the aviation industry, the 800 million tons is just flying, and it serves only 10% of the global population. So that's a good way to say, because sometimes there's some misinformation about this, and this is like your kind of disclaimer to say that. But ICT is growing because I have a lot of students who are interested in training AI models or GAN networks, but they're actually super polluting. And this is only increasing. So when we go back to the new normal, we can probably imagine that there's planes taking off almost every minute. But have you ever imagined how many emails there are being sent while I'm talking right now, right? And what I've learned is that you kind of have to change behavior. And I cannot say what brand this is, but I hope you all know this, where they started to kind of shame the consumer for not being sustainable. And even though they should have just changed the material of their bottles, right? But no, it was our responsibility to do it. But I don't think I will ever say to somebody when I see them taking a photo of the Tower of Pisa, like, what are you actually doing here? What are you trying to achieve? What are your morals? What are your goals? You don't really do that. Like, you just let people go. So that brings back the problem to the data centers and how the internet is actually growing. So 200 years ago, there was like the invention of steam, and that changed our landscape and how we took resources and how we manage cities, but also it created problems, right? And the problem is that we're now addressing climate change or global warming, which was actually accelerated 200 years ago. And then if we look at the machines that we're actually using now, which are these data centers or these stacks of computers, we are kind of heading towards the same direction. So this is a data center in Google. And Google is carbon neutral, which means that they do not, or they kind of compensate all the emissions they have. But with this particular data center, it was being built on a remote location, and they've been actually using all the water resources in that area to cool their data center. So that means that the town had to find another way to see how to survive or how to be sustainable. And these data centers are just usurping everything that's going around. So here in Amsterdam, there was farmers who sold their lands to build wind turbines, only for Microsoft to build a huge data center and take away all that electricity. So basically, everybody's back to square one. So while the internet is growing, we kind of have to see what can we as educators, what can we start doing already for the next generation of designers, engineers, the change agents basically, and that is digital responsibility. So what I've been doing for these past 2 years is developing workshops in this particular area, because like we are giving tools to help people live more efficiently. So this is an assistant cane for visually impaired people, and we are talking about what these canes are measuring, how the data is protected from this, who's behind this, what are these algorithms. So we are talking about that already, and this was released actually I think this week, where this is a new experiment where you can put AR on your furniture, and as new technologies arise, people start playing around with it. But like there's this thing there, you can be like, well, how can we mitigate the design of it, and how can we try to steer students to think more about use and efficiency instead of beauty. So I don't know if you all attended this, but I did not. I didn't know this was actually happening. But there was a Fortnite concert from an artist when the lockdown happened, and it was visited by more than 12 million people. So that means that as designers or whatever, we have a responsibility to facilitate this change. So the good thing is that there's a project in Barcelona where they host a website with solar energy. So if the sun is down, the website is down. And it's Low Tech Magazine. They have a lot of resources about how you can redesign your website to reduce less energy. And it's actually super interesting to do. So we started to work together and kind of create like a workshop for it on Mural, ironically. But we tried to redesign the website of the Digital Society School. And instead of thinking about user experience, we thought about like planet-centric design. And some really interesting conclusions came out of it. So for instance, like I believe that website had something like 50 pages. To minimize the pages and to think about using more images or line drawings, using less videos, using less sort of subtle interactions that are always hidden in Java. So to kind of change how we interact. Because the philosophy that we started having is like, yeah, if we are educating a new generation of ignorant designers who will start working with the things that we give them, we cannot be ignorant educators. So we have to change how we teach these people to make sure that we can make better choices later on. So that was it. So I'd like to thank you. I'm pretty sure I will hang around. So if you have questions, you can ask them in the chat. But that was basically my story. So I hope you like that.